1. So I'm a property manager of the house I live at for a discounted rent. This means that I am in charge of taking care of the property, finding tenants, making sure rents get paid on time. Basic things that a property manager does. So I had a friend who was looking for a place to live with his girlfriend, and since I knew them, I figured I would help them out. I was able to convince the owner to give them a discount on rent, about $300 lower than market value. In exchange, I told my friend that I would need help with maintaining the property. Stuff like maintaining the garden, keeping up with the trash, ensuring the house is kept clean. Pretty basic for a 26 and 28-year-old to do, right? Well, for the first month or so it was perfect. House was maintained. It was like 4 adults lived there. After the 30-day test period went by and we signed a year lease, their true nature surfaced. Saying that I lived with pigs would be insulting actual pigs. It started out small. A bowl left out for a day or two here, some trash accidentally left on the floor there. Then it started accumulating. Suddenly, my basement and garage became the storage space for them, their family, and their friends' stuff. You'd think, hey, at least it's organized and not in the walkway, right? Nope, it was everywhere. I wouldn't be able to get into the garage because a bunch of stuff would be cluttered everywhere. Dishes would be left in the sink for weeks. Bathroom wouldn't be cleaned unless I started doing it. Black mold started growing in the bathroom. Other forms of mold would be growing in the kitchen because they wouldn't clean up after themselves. We'd get ants every day because they couldn't wipe down a counter after spilling sauce. When I did the house walkthrough, their room would look like a tornado and a hoarder had a baby. Slight exaggeration? Nope. Their pet would poop and pee around the house and they wouldn't clean it. The smell was the final straw for me. I didn't understand how I could have 4 cats and 6 litter boxes around the house, yet somehow those areas smelled better than when I walked past their bedroom door. Keep in mind their door led to a staircase and their actual bedroom was upstairs. They must have let trash accumulate for months. Finally, after about 7 months, I sent them a very professional and polite message, saying that after their lease is up, it would not be renewed. I told them we would not be kicking them out, however, if they wanted to move out early, I would accept a 30-day notice, and not do any charge for the early termination, and I offered to give them their security deposit in full, without anything taken out if they left early. That's when the shit hit the fan. One of the tenants completely blew up on me, basically calling me a bunch of names, saying I was a horrible friend and threatening to sue me for breaking the lease. I repeatedly told them I was not kicking anyone out and simply not renewing the lease. The remainder of their time they decided to continue to let the house get worse, and I ended up having to get a cleaning service to help with the house. 2 months prior to their lease ending, they were several weeks late with their rent and coming up with an excuse every time I asked. They gave me their 30-day notice and then told me that because they did me a favor of moving out early, I should waive their rent for the last 2 months. I was livid, but wanted to just get them out, so I paid the owner the money to get them out, costing me an extra $2,100 I shouldn't have had to pay. These people decided that since I apparently owed them more favors, they weren't going to change their address, so it looks like they have a longer residence. So we kept getting their mail for months, which I would just return to the mailman. Then one of the former tenants sent me a message asking me to be their reference for when they apply for apartments, as they'd been saying they still live with me. Why, of course I'll be your reference. I started getting emails daily asking questions about said tenants and whether I would rent to them again. Some of them would include personal statements on what they said about themselves as tenants, and asked me if I agreed with them. Now here's where the malicious compliance comes in. I dutifully did what my prior tenants asked. In fact, I'd say I went above and beyond. I answered the reference questions with complete honesty and even included pictures of the state of the house and conversations. I took every phone interview that was requested. It was quite satisfying hearing the other property managers thank me for my honesty. Last I heard, they are living in someone's basement for almost double of what it's worth. 2. Last year I started working for a local plumbing company that seemed promising. Would pay top dollar to employees for good old-fashioned labor. So I signed my W-2 and went on my way. Seems legit, right? I started out making an hourly wage and was given my own work van and was offered a work cell phone. However, If you used your personal cell phone, the owner of the company would pay your bill because you were using your own phone. How neat is that? Fast forward a month or two. I was forced to make commission based off of every job, and I didn't have a say in this. But 20% of every job you go to? Hell, that's a lot of money in plumbing. So I was none the wiser. Eventually I found out that my paychecks weren't having any taxes taken out of them, so I asked my boss, "Why am I not having taxes taken out of my check?" To which he replied, "When we switched you to commission, you're a subcontractor now. You're 1099, you're gonna be making so much back now, bro." Didn't sign a 1099 form, but okay. As the time went on, I started working 90-hour weeks with no break. If my phone was turned off and the office folk tried to reach me and couldn't, they would take money out of my paycheck. The phone bill never got paid. There would be days where I wouldn't make a single dime because the boss would mess something up in our system. We also had no heat in our vans, and when it got to -14 outside, his words were, "Go buy a fucking blanket, I can't afford repairs like this right now." While he is in Florida on a cruise with his whole family. So like anyone else, I just up and quit. Fuck that. When I left, I asked for my checks. I was owed 3 of them for the weeks I worked, but my boss wasn't ready to give them up yet. "You fucked me over and now I'm going to fuck you over," he said when I asked why he wasn't going to pay me. I offered multiple times for him to just meet me, so this wouldn't have to go any further. He refused. I took to our legal advice, bless them, and asked what I should do. The responses led me to LARA, Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, to file a wage claim to get my money. But on top of that, I filed a report with them stating the company doesn't pull permits, which it's required to do, when replacing people's plumbing, so they sent over an investigator to check these claims out. I then went to the IRS to find out about this whole tax ordeal. I filed the proper paperwork to have the IRS check and see if I was misclassified as a 1099 employee when I should have been a W-2 employee, since they weren't taking taxes out. Sure as shit, I was wrongfully not getting taxes taken out of my checks. So the IRS sent an investigator of their own. Now at this point, I see in my phone that I still have their email address linked to my Google account, so I do some snooping. It turns out they haven't paid city taxes in 6 years, and that the office manager, a woman who has verbally abused me time and time again, collects disability through the state but still collects a $1.5K paycheck from the company every week. You can bet I sent that in with the IRS, screenshots included in my email. This is how it all unfolded. I have a friend that still works, or rather worked for them at the time, and he told me about the investigators coming in. Lara fined them upwards of $50,000 for failing to produce the proper permits for work that was performed. They also paid me what the company owed me with interest, since I waited over a month for those checks. On top of all of this, the IRS made them pay for my taxes at the end of the year, took away the office manager's disability, audited them because they haven't paid city taxes, and fined them for each employee they did this to. At this time as well, all of his fleet vans broke due to wear and tear. This resulted in the company closing. When he asked me why I did all of this, my response was simply, "You fucked me over, so I fucked you over." 3. I worked for an events hire company. We supplied everything from AV to display stands, fencing, staging, etc. So I worked with an organizer that was looking to host a beers and wines festival. Had multiple meetings and provided far too many quotes and prices. But eventually it paid off and signed off to work with us. Fast forward about 2 weeks later. I have had little contact from her, which was very unusual. Out of the blue, she emails me saying that she had found a cheaper supplier, almost half the price, and that we were ripping her off, and if we didn't void the contract and return her deposit, she would take legal action. Our prices were very fair and competitive with our main competition, so this really didn't make sense as to why it would be so insanely cheap. I've had this before, and in my experience it's just best to let these organizers go, rip up the contract, and return the deposit. If you force them to work with you, it becomes an absolute nightmare and just isn't worth it in the long run, as you work with these people for months leading up to the event. The event was still quite a while away, so I was confident I could fill in the spot with another. Anyway, It is now 3 days before the festival opens, and I get a call from our story's CB.
You have to help me. It's CB.
Sure, what's up?
The supplier has arrived to install and the equipment is unusable. The marquees are ripped. Displays can barely stand up. They didn't bring any AV. It's a disaster.
Okay, so before I go back to my team, are you needing everything we quoted you right now?
Yes, everything.
I go back to my team, and although we had a bit on, we agreed we could supply what she needed in the time, but would naturally need to charge a premium because it was late as fuck and meant serious overtime. We didn't want to do it, but pulling her out of the shit would have made waves in our industry, and bound to get good words in the right ears due to the festival's size. So I call back CB. CB, I have great news. We can get down there later this afternoon, and we will work non-stop over the next 2 days to get this done for you.
You're a lifesaver, thank you so much.
Now, we will require 90% upfront payment, and you can pay the remaining 10% after install is complete. I will send you an invoice now, but please know the invoice will be a larger amount than before, approximately 30% more due to overtime and just being late, pretty standard for an event this size. Guess how the mood turns now.
But we had a contract. We have a set amount. You need to honor that.
You made us rip it up and threatened a lawsuit if we made you stick to it. Those are the prices. No other company in this city would be able to deliver what you are asking at this late notice regardless. The price is the price. You can take it or leave it.
This is crazy. We had a contract.
She throws some nasty words my way about how we are useless and going to get sued. You have 2 hours to let me know if you want to move ahead, otherwise the stock will not be available. Goodbye. She never called back and went ahead with the other supplier. Festival was a disaster. She had also charged independent mobile food vendors and retailers to be at this festival and charged them premium for each spot. The vendors constantly lost power, water, and had zero support during the show. So they naturally took her to court to get their money back as they lost money attending the festival. She had to pay back all the businesses that had purchased a spot at the festival through court order and lost her business. Then tried to sue us and blame us for the whole catastrophe, but it didn't go far. Before you say it's sad she lost her livelihood, firstly, she should have canned that event there and then. It doesn't take an organizer to see this was in no way going to be successful. Secondly, we found out through industry people that she had done this before, but got away with it, so fuck her. She tried to personally sue me as well, which didn't go far either, but still wasted a lot of my time. 4. When I was around 10 years old, I went to this summer camp for around 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. It took place in our town's park district. Basically, there were about 30 kids in total, and everyone was divided into groups of around 5 kids. Each group got their own counselor. There was one kid, I won't say his name for obvious reasons, so we will just call him Id. Id was a different kid. He did have anger issues, as well as he did not understand what was right from wrong too well. I think he had a slight mental disability, so he was given his own personal counselor to be near him at all times. Despite the counselor's best effort, it really was just a pain to deal with a 5'5", 350-pound kid. Id really liked to torment anyone that he saw lower than him. Anyone that was either too quiet or too small, he deemed himself better. The problem started when I decided to bring a deck of cards to camp to play BS. For those who don't know what it is, it's a game about bluffs. I was at the time really close with his sister. She was the best kind of person to be around. While in the middle of a game with a couple of other people, he walked up and asked if he could join. This wouldn't have been a problem, but we were doing a mini tournament. We told him that he would have to wait until the game to join. He did not take too well to this. He walked away and we thought that was the end of it. He came back a few minutes later and splashed the table with some kind of Kool-Aid mix. Everyone was pissed at him for getting everyone wet and sticky with the drink, but he also ruined my cards. This was just the beginning with all the little things he would do to piss me off throughout the years. A different incident a few weeks later, we were at the local pool. At our pool we have a grass area for all the summer camps and people who want to eat out of the food court. I came back to my backpack with all my stuff spread out around the back, and even inside of a back area that was covered in pine needles and wood chippings. It was a literal pain to get all of my things together. I hope you can see what kind of person that he is so far. The final straw took place in my freshman year in high school. He decided that he had not gotten enough out of me. By that point, he had physically assaulted, vandalized my things, stolen from me, but I have had enough. He came up to me with someone that I was acquainted with but not really friends with. This changed it to me hating his guts. They wanted me to do some stupid task to prove I was a loyal slave. I refused, and they did their usual threats. I decided to start planning. In November 2017, a few months after that incident, I put my plan into action. I went to my class that day. We were doing football for PE, so this wouldn't make it too hard. I pretended to be extremely cocky, as I had 5 years of football experience before this, but played like trash, because I was really garbage at football despite what I just said. I called out Ed and started instigating an argument. I made him so pissed after telling him he was playing it wrong. He screamed at me throughout the locker room. In our school, when you leave the locker room, you usually wait on this long ramp leading into the main hallway until the bell rings. Near the bottom where you're supposed to wait, there is a camera that can see up the hallway and to the main hall. The security likes to keep people at the bottom, and to keep people from leaving early. So this made it easier. I went up the ramp and talked shite about him under my breath, but just loud enough to let him hear it. He got pissed. He came up and pinned me against the wall I was next to, and the dish acquaintance came up to help Id. They both started telling me that I will never be anything, but all it took was one quip from me. At least I can play football properly. Id just then, in front of several classes, slapped me. Then the douche nailed me in the stomach. I was holding onto the wall to not fall over, but I knew I did it. You would think that no one would give a damn about a game in PE, but you'd be wrong. It took a lot for me to not yell in pain, but it also took a lot to not fight back. As soon as the bell rang, I went to the dean in the school and explained everything. The kid also went there to try to make up some lie about me calling him a homophobic slur, but was a known liar, so he wasn't taken seriously. I remember an officer that worked in the building asking if I wanted to press charges, and I said no. I got picked up from school that day and changed my mind in the car ride home. I remember every little thing he did to make me miserable. The best part is, it was all recorded on camera. I did not see Ed after that car ride as he got expelled, but I ran into Dush in school. I told the school not to be as serious on him, so he only got suspended for a week. He told me he wanted to fight me. I still remember the look on his face as I told him one simple line. I don't fight, especially when there can be proof of it. He was trying to look casual, but was clearly pissed. I smiled as I walked to my next class. This happened about 1.5 years ago, and I still regret nothing. If you take anything from this, look out for cameras. 5. This all happened to me during last year's summer. I'm from Romania, but I work in Germany because the monthly salary is significantly higher, so I have an overall better life there. Anyway, my mother's birthday was coming up and she really wanted the whole family to be together. She's a really sweet mom and I always loved her, so I called work to let my boss know I will be gone a few days to see my mother. He agreed to let me go, so I boarded the first plane that was flying to Bucharest, capital of Romania, and I was on my way. I arrived at the airport and my mom picked me up and drove me home. During that night, the whole family gathered in the living room and we all just started recounting all kinds of memories and telling how our lives have been. The next day, I helped my mother prepare the food and set up the birthday decorations. The guests arrived a couple of hours later, including my grandparents, my aunt and uncle, and some other relatives. We all had a great time, but all good things must come to an end. Time flew by really fast and I had to get back to Germany. I wanted to call a cab, but my mom insisted that I take her car. It's a 2015 Chevrolet Impala, for those who are wondering. So I was on my way to the airport, driving through the crowded streets of Bucharest. I had finally gotten some free road ahead with no cars in sight, so I sped up a bit. Suddenly, a car pulled out in front of me from a parking lot and cut me off. I didn't have enough time to stop, so I hit the side of the car at about 30 kilometers an hour. At the wheel, there is a woman in her mid-30s who immediately got out of her car and started screaming at me. Both of our car's airbags were blown out, and because she had an older car than mine, Hers had suffered a lot more damage. Anyway, I get out of my vehicle, and she starts blaming me for the crash. I told her I was on the main road going straight ahead, and she pulled out in front of me, and I had no time to react, so I was not at fault. I look at my car to check the damage. Then I look at hers, and I notice that she actually had a small child in the back seat, maybe 2 or 3 years old, who was crying and screaming because she was scared and didn't know what was going on. When the woman notices I spotted her kid, she turns red and just stares at me for a minute without saying anything. I was like, WTF, you okay? And all of a sudden she was extremely happy, I swear. It was like she was on drugs or something. She admits it was her fault, and we proceed to exchange insurance information. And a few seconds later, she jumps back in her car and speeds away. The laws here in my country are pretty harsh, especially when it comes to a hit and run. You can get your driving license suspended for up to 90 days, and a fine of up to 3,000 liu, about $715. So I was just thinking, no, there is no way she's doing this. But oh, she was. So I get in my car and begin to chase her, while I was on the phone with the police. She was going maybe 80 or 90 kilometers an hour in a 50 kilometer an hour zone, and running every red light like she was in need for speed or something. I obviously didn't want her to get away, but at the same time I was trying to drive as safely as possible. So I had to let her go, but at least I memorized her license plate. The police managed to identify her and she got arrested. Apparently, she was wanted for 2 other hit and runs, and she had a criminal record. Not only that, but because she had a toddler in the car when she crashed into me, her child was taken away from her for 1 year. I definitely don't think she deserved all of this, but you don't mess with the Romanian police. In the end, I guess you can say I got my revenge, and I hope the lady got her life right. 6. This happened when I was a teenager working my first job, a long time ago at McDonald's. And I was working the evening shift as a drive-thru cashier. It was a pretty normal day, and though it was a bit slow, there weren't many of us there and we were just kind of doing our own thing. But little did I know that this would be the day I would encounter my first entitled customer. But sadly not my last. And it was quite memorable for me. EC drives up to the order menu, and I use my headset to greet the customer. Welcome to McDonald's, may I take your order?
Yeah, I want a McDouble.
Alright, would that complete your order?
Yeah, but I want extra onions.
No problem. Now, in case you didn't know, McDonald's has a screen for customers to review their order to ensure it is accurate, and will display any special orders, so I added the extra onions on the order so the customer will see it. Please pull to the next window, thank you.
Hey, I only see 1 extra onions.
I'm a bit confused. I'm sorry.
I said extra 10 times. I want to see it on the screen.
You want me to put extra onions on the screen 10 times?
Yes, I order extra onions all the time and I never get enough. You guys never make my burger right, and I want to see the extra onions on there 10 times, so you understand that I'm serious about this.
Okay. I add extra onions on the screen 10 times. Does that look correct?
Yeah, hopefully you won't mess this up. You guys always mess it up.
We'll try. Please pull up to the next window. Now the order goes to the back to my coworker to make sure he sees a burger with a bunch of extra onions on it.
Hey, what's up with that order?
Don't make it. I'll do it. He's pretty slow and I want to make sure his burger is done correctly.
Whatever.
I then proceed to take his money for the order and direct him to the next window to wait for his meal, which he just kind of gruffs and proceeds, and I head back to the grill to make his burger. So a McDouble made back then went bun top, ketchup, mustard, onions, pickles, cheese, patty, bun bottom, in that order. But this guy wanted extra 10 times onions, and I was dead set on ensuring just that. So in compliance with his order, I put some onions on the wrapper bun top, onions, ketchup, onions, mustard, onions, silvered onions, different cut onions for bigger burgers, pickles, onions, cheese, onions, patty, onions, cheese, onions, patty, onions, bun bottom, and sprinkle some more onions around the burger.
What the fuck?
Says my coworker. I'm now looking at this half-onion, half-burger monstrosity grinning. Wrapped it up, attached the large special ticket to it, and sent it to my other co-worker to give it out. Well, he said he doesn't get enough onions. Hope it's to his liking. I didn't have to wait long to find out if he liked it. A few minutes later, EC enters a McDonald's lobby asking loudly who made his burger. My manager was up front at the time, and found out it was me who made it and called me up front. My coworker says, "Oh, you done fucked up now." I was just a teenager then and didn't really think I would ever see this guy again, or really think about any consequences to my actions, but now facing it, was a bit worried. I made the burger. Was there enough onions on it for you?" Now kind of expecting to get yelled out by the EC and in trouble with my manager. Was a bit surprised when the guy started laughing.
Kid, let me shake your hand. You're the first guy who actually made me take onions off my burger. Guess 10 extras is too much. Next time I come here, I'll say 5.
EC left laughing, and though I never actually saw that guy again, left me with a great story about an EC who likes onions a bit much, and ended up being a pretty good sport about it. 7. So I used to live in Deutschland, and upon returning to fair Blighty, the UK, I began looking for work. Being a simple man of simple needs, I quickly found employment in the marketing department for a medium-sized industrial manufacturer. It was a little below my experience level and qualifications, but I take what I can get, because I am a simple man. At the final interview, I mentioned it would be top banana if I could arrive 5 minutes early and leave 5 minutes early on most days, so I could catch my train. With a smile, my new boss, hereafter referred to as Mentarosa, said of course. It's only 5 minutes and I'd still be working the full 8 hours. Sin problemas. Ana pasung boro, and welcome aboard. My first day comes and I ride the choo-choo all the way to my new workplace, eager to begin. I quickly learn that the lunchroom is pure stank. Senior staff put their name instead of mine on any trade article I get published, and that our job mostly consists of extorting money from our own sales staff, but that's life. I'm a simple man, and so I set about my labors, glad to earn a crust. What really flogged my noggin, however, is La Mentarosa calling me into her office on my second day, and telling me I can't leave early again because it is unprofessional. I remind her of the conversation we had in which she said, with her mouth, the words, "It will be no problem for you to arrive and leave 5 minutes early." She smirks and replies,
Maybe I said that, but is it written in your contract?
"Touché, you big ol' Mentarosa, touché." I shrug and get on with life, because that's life. But of course I start looking for other work. By making me stay the 5 minutes, La Mentarosa makes me miss my train and turns my 2 hours daily commute into a 4-hour one. Niet druk. I do not want this. I am a simple man and need my downtime. About 2 weeks later, the company goes on a firing spree. One of those people fired is me because I have been quite openly looking for other work. I'm given 2 weeks' notice and smugly told I am not good enough for this place, and that I will never work in the area again because of La Mentarosa's contacts. As she Snapchats this news to the rest of the team, I joke not, I reflect that she is probably right, as I am a simple man. Among the other victims of the purge is a regional sales manager for Germany. This is more important to the company than my meaningless departure, since the company also decided to end the contract with their biggest German distributor, and so suddenly a huge part of the company's core market is not active, and they have no salesman to find them a new distributor. Management panics, until La Mentarosa remembers that her despised marketing bandit is a fluent German speaker, and so the fun begins. She asks me to step up to the plate.
Be a buddy, old pal. I didn't mean it when I said you'd never work in this town again.
I am a simple man. So rather than point out that I am not being paid anywhere near what I would earn as a translator, rather than remind them that they have just fired me and I am not their friend anymore, rather than asking, "Is it written in my contract?" and then smirking like an obnoxious dingwall on a high horse made of douche. I instead swallow my pride and agree to help out. It is here that the twin revenges named inadequacy and abandonment make their entrance. Firstly, inadequacy. During every conversation I mention my job title, advertising assistant. When the friendly Teutons politely ask why a lowly assistant is negotiating this kind of deal, I simply explain that the regional manager was let go and there is no formal replacement. This is entirely true. But it is also a huge red flag for any serious company, especially well-established German manufacturing firms. And combined with the temporary uncertainty regarding Brexit, which had been announced only a few days prior, was enough to kill any interest they had in becoming our next distributor. Secondly, abandonment. As I am a simple man, I forgot to tell Lamenterosa that I had already received and accepted another job offer. She was thrilled at the praises she was getting from management for finding a stopgap solution to the catastrophic damage they had done themselves. And she asked me if I could actually stay on with the company until they secured a new distributor. Since I obviously had nothing better to do with my time, being fired and all, I assured her there were no hard feelings over my firing, and that I would stay to help as long as I could. On the day I was originally due to leave, I held my calls, drew up a summary of where we stood. It was effectively a sad emoji followed by a poop emoji. Handed it to Lamenterosa and explained I was leaving to enjoy a week of holiday, followed by starting a new job in a different field. She sputtered. She couldn't believe it. She thought I would stay longer to help clean up the mess. They still had no distributor and no sales manager for Germany. They were hemorrhaging money. She called me out, reminding me that I had said I would stay. But I am a simple man. And so my only reply was, "Maybe I said that. But is that written in my contract?" P.S. The company survived. Lamenterosa ended up being let go, and I spent 2 fantastic years at the new job, so it didn't ruin my career. 8. This happened around 5 years ago. I was 13 at the time. My cousin and older brother were going to be hosting the family reunion that year. It was the first time hosting for both of them. It was held over 3 days in February, Saturday and Sunday. Friday night was a small welcome party at my cousin's house. Saturday was sightseeing, followed by dinner and games at a local hotel. Sunday was church. My brother was only around for Saturday as he had to work Friday night and he's not a church-going person. The restaurant my brother worked at was catering the Saturday dinner, so to save money he enlisted some of his friends and girlfriend to help set up and serve. The prizes for the games included gift cards, gift certificates to the restaurant my brother worked at, and some other stuff. They were even raffling off a painting my brother's girlfriend did, just for the reunion. She was going to college for art, I believe. It was absolutely beautiful and everyone wanted it. My brother and his friends got to the hotel early Saturday morning to set up. Then went to pick up the food from the restaurant. These guys did a great job as the dining hall looked amazing. Everyone had arrived by the time they got back with the food. The restaurant was on the northwest side of town, about a 30-minute drive depending on traffic. They set up and started serving. Now I should point out that Bro's friends were working for free. They still got to be part of the festivities and meet and hang out with the family. This was also his girlfriend's first time meeting the family. Everyone was seemingly having a great time with one exception. Karen. She was my grandma's cousin, I think. Karen didn't like the fact that non-family were a part of our reunion, and she was very vocal about it. For the most part, everyone ignored her. That didn't last long, though. Karen decided she wanted seconds on food and walks up to the food table. At this point, everyone was well into playing cards, chatting, or whatever. In her best "I want to see your manager" voice, she goes, "Where are the damn servers? We are not paying them to sit around and have fun." Hope you remember that Bro's friends aren't getting paid. She marches over to the table Bro and his friends and I are sitting at and goes, "Either they do their damn jobs or they leave." My brother isn't fond of being talked down to or someone disrespecting his friends. He kindly explains to Karen that they were doing us a favor and are welcome to enjoy themselves as well. But Karen isn't having it. Instead of causing a scene, my brother just said, "Fuck it. Well, you heard the bitch. I guess we gotta leave. Let's pack up and go to the bar." Without missing a beat, they stopped what they were doing and started packing up. All the equipment from the restaurant was packed up and loaded into cars, food was placed on the tables and started to go cold. Decorations were taken down and loaded up. They had loaded up whatever they could carry with them in 30 minutes' time. All that was left was tables, chairs, food, prizes, and the painting. They said their goodbyes and just left. Everyone is stunned by what they just witnessed. Leave it to Karen to fuck it up for everybody. With the mood soured, we held the raffle for the painting and called it a night. Luckily, my great-aunt won the painting. It's still hanging up in her house to this day. The aftermath. We, as a group, had to clean up the mess just so my cousin could get his deposit back. My brother, of course, didn't show up for the church service. Then there was Karen. She was shunned because of her actions. She hasn't been welcomed at a family reunion since. Oh, I forgot. The painting was of the family farm in North Carolina. I recently found out that it's going to be passed down when my great-aunt passed. 9. So a couple of years ago, I worked at a chain electronics store. The one with the squad of geeks. I worked at the customer service area and loved the job and my co-workers. However, our store went through some changes and basically there was a time in which we didn't have an active general manager. This caused my manager, who already kind of didn't like me, as he chose favorites and I wasn't one of them, to go on a bit of a power trip. During the holiday rush, he started cracking down on every little thing from break times to dress codes. Normally this wasn't a problem, but we then proceeded to lose 2 full-time workers in the customer service department, leaving us severely understaffed during the busiest season of the year. During this time, my black work shoes had worn out. Like, way out. The soles were falling off. I'd had them basically since I started working at the age of 17, I was 20 or so at the time, and I'd just gotten them from Goodwill, so it was understandable. However, because of how crazy work was, classes in college, and because I was now basically the only full-timer in the department, I never got around to ordering or buying new shoes. So I wore the ones that were closest to dress code. A pair of dark grey ones with a white sole I used as my normal pair of tennis shoes. I fully understand that this was partially my fault and that I should have bought work shoes sooner, but my manager took it too far, as he always did. As an example, he once threatened to fire me for insubordination for wearing a pair of Mickey ears on Halloween because he didn't give the department permission to wear hats on Halloween, even though others in the store were. But that's another story. One day, during a lull in the crowd, the department had a kind of round table where my manager touched base with us about the status of the department. Promised he was hiring more people soon, told us we needed to be more diligent about complying with every company standard, etc. During this meeting, I had customers come up and form a line of returns, so I couldn't focus on it at all. We got a rush, the meeting ended, and while I am processing a pickup order for a customer, my manager tells me he needs me to be in compliance with the dress code. This meant having the right shoes. I agree and tell him it was totally my fault and that I'd get new shoes. But I knew I wasn't the only one who wasn't complying with the dress code or other rules due to us being so understaffed, and told him that maybe my having all black shoes wasn't the biggest priority right now. He then told me that his priority was making sure we were doing what we were supposed to, and that included footwear. This was all in front of a line of customers that I was trying to take care of, so it wasn't as if I was being single-minded on purpose. After work, I went to the shoe store, but as we all know, stores are expensive, and since the dress code demanded all black shoes, they were basically double the price of any other shoe. I decided to order a pair online for cheaper, as I wanted a nice pair of work shoes, and not just some second-hand ones at a thrift store. And money was tight, so I couldn't afford both. I found a pair of good Pumas on Amazon that were fairly priced, ordered my shoes, and shot my manager a text and told him I'd ordered shoes. But it would be about 2 weeks before they arrived. They weren't prime. I even sent him a picture of them with the expected delivery date to emphasize that I was doing a good job trying to comply with dress code. This was not enough. A few days later, I'm at work, and he asks why I don't have the right shoes. I explain to him, again, that I ordered some and it would be about 2 weeks, now about a week and a half, before they would arrive. He told me I should have bought a pair in store. I explained that I didn't want a pair of thrift store shoes and that all of them, from normal stores, were double their not all black counterparts. Black shoes with white sole, etc. I told him if he'd allow me to get some of those, I might be able to cancel my order and have black shoes sooner. This only made him more annoyed. He told me company policies stated I had to have all black shoes with no white on them. He then said the magic words,
"Go home. I don't want you here until you're in dress code with the proper footwear."
I asked him if he was serious because we were understaffed and this seemed like a stupid thing to focus on when there were clearly bigger problems. He said he was. Alright then, cool. I had some paid vacation time saved up, so I put in as much as I could since I knew what was about to happen, and didn't want my paycheck too affected. Helped the last customer in my line, and left the store. The next day I get a call from one of the managers of the store asking why I wasn't at my shift. I told him what my manager had said, apologizing the whole time because I did genuinely feel bad. My manager did not appreciate that. He texted me telling me to go in, and I stated that I was sorry, but I did not have the right footwear, and because I was not complying with the dress code like he wanted, I couldn't go in. I told him I'd put in vacation to make up for my lost pay and wished him luck. I also told him I'd go to HR if need be. Basically a ploy to make sure my vacation time went through and assure there was no retaliation. My shoes came in a week later, a little earlier than expected, and I went in for my shift the day after I got them, as if nothing happened. He never bothered me about my shoes again. 10. Hey all, I was talking with a friend of mine about the bus routes in her city. I used to live there too, so she asked me if I still remember the price of tickets and which one goes where. It brought up several stories of instances we both had on the buses last year. I asked if I could share her stories and she said it was fine. Her story. GJ equals my friend, Rel equals rude entitled lady, BD equals bus driver. On with the story. The buses in that town have rules about who can sit where. This allows the elderly, pregnant, disabled, and sick to sit up front closest to the door, and with the most legroom. These seats face the walkway and fold up in case someone is in a scooter or wheelchair. This is important. GJ is a short older woman with a wheeled walker, and a white woman, again important. To start the story, we follow GJ as she gets onto the bus, aided by the bus driver, BD. All is normal for a few stops. Then enter rude entitled lady, a dark-skinned woman of average height looking no later than mid to late 40s with the complete Karen makeover. She sits across from GJ and all is well until the next stop. A man in a scooter is waiting to be let onto the bus. BD politely says one of the ladies will have to move so he can lift the seat up and help the man onto the bus. Rel looks GJ dead in the eyes and says, "Well?" GJ is stunned for a second. This lady expects her to move to another seat on the bus. In order to do that, GJ will have to climb 2 large steps with her walker. This was one of those that has a seat and a basket attached to it, so it was on the bulky side. Through the narrow walkway, and have to leave her walker in the middle of the aisle, which is a safety violation, and will block other passengers from getting on and off the bus. BD steps onto the bus after lowering the ramp to allow the scooter man to board. "Ladies, I'll ask again." At this point, Rel looks at GJ as with impatience and scowls. Not wanting to create any drama, GJ slowly gets up and proceeds to move to another seat, reaching the steps. She asks BD for assistance not just with her walker but with her vertigo. After several minutes, BD helps GJ into a seat, but cannot fit the walker anywhere. Needing to get back on his schedule, buses are only supposed to be stopped for 2 minutes if no one is entering or leaving. He leaves the walker in the aisle and proceeds to help Scooterman into his spot. Some of the people on the bus begin to point out how unfair it was that GJ had to move, and the other lady should have. As the bus progressed, more and more people boarded the bus, each and every one complaining about the walker in the aisle, at which the other passengers on who witnessed what happened informed them why it was there, to which they turned their attention to Rel, calling her out on it and demanding that she switch seats with GJ. Rel scolded them for taking the side of a white woman, and how if Rosa Parks didn't move to the back of the bus, neither should she, even calling out the people of color for sitting in the back by their own choice. All the while, GJ is sitting quietly watching the entertainment. It got so bad with all the shouting that BD pulled off to the side of the road and tore everyone a new one for being loud and shouting. Rel actually had the audacity to claim that she was the victim of their harassment and demanded a free month-long bus pass or else she'd be reporting to the city. BD was having none of it. He pointed to the 3 cameras on the bus and said, "Feel free to show them the evidence. Now get off my bus." Rel, with her mouth opening and closing like a fish, said, She then stood up with a picked up her oversized purse, and walked off the bus. Now, there is a bus stop like every block, so she didn't have to walk far, but she did have to wait a whole hour for the next bus to come around. BD also helped GJ back into an appropriate seat. Scooter Guy even felt like he needed to apologize, saying he felt like it was his fault. GJ assured him it wasn't, and they shared a good laugh. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream Archives, Episode 11. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories. It's been a busy and a lazy day today, if that makes any sense. Yesterday I got a good bit of work done clearing out the spare rooms that's about to become my office, and today I started late, so I didn't get as much done as I thought I would. I could still be working at it now, but you don't... Legally, you're allowed to make noise up until a certain point at night, but you just don't drill... It was about 8 p.m. by the time I decided, okay, that's enough. You just don't drill in that time, and it's kind of rude. So, I stopped for tonight. I did get 2 of my wall panels measured and up, so I know the measurements I need to make, how far up the wall the plates need to go, and that sort of thing. So it won't take long now. I'm hoping by this time next week, I will be in there recording. Get the panels up. I've decided, although I'm not a big fan, I'm not a big fan, surprisingly, I'm a human being. I'm also not a big fan of those foam squares you get. They're very popular with a lot of people, and that's fair enough. I just don't have a personal love for them, at least on walls. What I have decided I think will work quite well is if I use those to cover the ceiling. And that'll get rid of, or it will get rid of a sound reflecting off the roof. So I've decided I'm going to get black and purple. If possible, we'll see what colours are available. But 2 inches thick is the size I'm going for. That will be expensive, but not as expensive as it would be buying more of the wall panels and mounting them. But easier to mount them as well. So that's my plan as it is currently. I'm going to quit rambling for now and head off. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.